Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bite-Sized Branding Live Show. As you can see, I'm missing Grant again. Grant has had some audio problems, so hopefully he will join us soon. But I want to welcome the amazing Jemima Ashley to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure. We caught up or bumped into each other in Melbourne, of all places. I don't know how we both ended up there or what the deal was. But we were both there, and we had met only, I think, once or twice before. I believe you were in Canberra before that, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. And then somehow Melbourne in lockdown was still an upgrade, which I think is saying something.
Man, I guess anything is possible.
Yes, it
was. So, yeah, and then we reconnected in Melbourne. We looked at a couple of projects together. Hopefully some of those will take off. We're looking at one in Lebanon, of all places. And I said, you know what, you have a beautiful product, an amazing approach to things at the Visibility Lab. And I went, you know what, we have to get this lady on the show. And that's how we ended up here. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It was so funny when I ran into you again. Like, I looked at you and I was like, I know that guy's name. It'll come to me. And you came over to me like, oh, we've met before. I was like, oh goodness, please let me remember where this happened. You reminded me. Yeah, we've been connected for years, actually. It was so interesting. And yeah, really excited to be here and to chat to everyone about all things visibility and PR. Let's go.
Awesome. Well, Grant hasn't shown back up, but we won't let that hinder us. While we wait for Grant to chime in, tell us a little bit more about the Visibility Lab and what that's all about.
Yeah, so Visibility Lab stemmed from a conversation that happened with me about 5 years ago. So for a long time, and it's really important I give you a bit of background here, for a long time I worked in government, and that meant exclusively not getting my photo taken. I was not allowed to be seen. I wasn't allowed to be heard.
Wow.
I was constantly like, you got in a lot of trouble if you were seen in the media. And I started I was like, this is exhausting. I'd done like law enforcement for 13 years, and I was finally like, I need to do something else in my life. This is exhausting. I'm out. And I started this little small business, and suddenly I got like all this media attention, and then people were calling me and asking me to I was doing a podcast, and it really escalated very quickly. This is not the normal story, I know that, but I learned really quickly how many people were scared of being in front of the camera and how people didn't really know how to talk and do speaking engagements. They didn't know how to be authentic in themselves. And this is where the idea for the Visibility Lab came about, was I had to learn kind of baptism by fire, how to grow my profile, how to pitch to media, how to be seen in an authentic way. And every time I talked to a PR firm, I was like, so what do you actually do for me? It just seemed like I was giving people a lot of money for something I could really do myself. So Visibility Lab was created about 18 months ago, and we specialize in helping businesses and brands and specifically individuals, collectives, because they're a collective, we'll come into that, I'm sure, that we help people get their personal brand right, get in the right rooms, go to the right networking events, how to win awards, and how to get free PR.
That's crazy. I love how it walked out of a need, something that you saw was important for yourself, and thought, well, how can I make this work for other people? And the PR space is a bit of a minefield. It is very challenging, and it is expensive. And if people don't know what they're doing and what they're investing into, you could definitely go a lot of wrong ways into PR.
And it doesn't need to be expensive. This is such a fallacy that I've just seen time and time again. People like, you need to pay $7,000 to get good PR. Who made that rule up? I worked with someone on the weekend over last week. We did our first live event, had a lot of clients together, and one of the girls it was so good to speak. One engagement, she sent one email off. She booked a podcast that has over 100,000 downloads on it, and she looked at me dead in the eye and was like, "What am I paying my PR firm for?" And I was like, "I don't know, honestly." And I'm not talking smack about all PR firms out here, but you can build this into your business very easily and get real-time, really classic results. People always say to me like, oh, yeah, okay, so what have you done? I'm like, how much time have you got? I've been featured in over 300 different media outlets, and some of them abroad. I have won countless awards, including we're about to be named one of the top 10 disruptors of 2022 in Australia. I've been named one of the top 10 entrepreneurs.
You were disrupted? No.
Stop it. Stop it. Say more things like that. You know, TV, radio regularly call me as a contact because I taught them to call me. I was like, I can help you. Let me help you. And they're like, yes, we need someone that's going to help and not just promote their own stuff.
Amazing. I love it. Look, Grant is in the waiting room. I'm going to let him in and he can then introduce the format of the show. Grant, can you hear us, mate?
I'm in.
Yes, victory. Guys, this is how you know the show is live. Grant's audio wasn't working. He could hear us. We couldn't hear him. It was just not happening.
I had to run to another machine. I had to log in. I had to download Chrome. I had to
and we had to go live. Facebook says you can't, if you schedule a live and you don't get on in 9 minutes, we cancel your show. So
right, well, I'm in. So let me tell you about the format of the show. So welcome to the show, and my name is Grant Tom, and I'm known as the head fire starter of the show. And basically what that means is that for any business out there that's looking for ideas to get things going, I'm just going to try and get a bit of light on the matter here. Here we go. But basically, at the end of the day, it's all about bringing on fantastic guests to the show who are specialists within their industry. And at the same time, what we look at is with the view to ask questions and be able to challenge our guests and be educated by our guests in the sense of their expertise and learn something, because at the end of the day, there's no such thing as rules in marketing. So it's all about what we know and what we can do in order to get in front of our competition and show that our brands are worthwhile and valuable. Over to you, Bernard.
Thank you very much, Grant. Made it just in time for your own intro. Amazing. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. So hopefully you caught a little bit of Jemima's covering it up. Look, I think it's fantastic. It's great to see PR, a new take on PR, and I feel like it's been it hasn't been disrupted in a way in a very, very long time. Everyone's kind of set the tone, and that's the tone, and that's how everyone does it. But what I really love about what you're doing is developing that personal brand side, and that's a real differentiator. So we're gonna jump into the first question. Is everyone ready?
Got it. I'm ready.
I'm going to open up my little clock here on my phone. Here we go. 7 minutes. No cheating.
This is stressful.
Right, that's another thing. So we normally do this in 5 minutes, but with guests, we bring on 2 extra minutes just to make sure that we all can have a bit of a say.
Awesome. So the first thing I want to talk about is obviously there's a buzzword. It's going around personal brands, build your personal brand. What is the true value that you've seen that's been built in, out of creating a personal brand? Is there something you can give us that's tangible that people can go, oh, wow, that's what happens when you build a good personal brand? Are you ready to go?
I am.
Yes, let's do it.
Go. Tell. Go.
Let's talk about personal brands. This is where people get it wrong. People try to fit themselves into other people's personal brands. Like we look at Gary Vee or Tony Robbins or these other things, and we're like, I'm going to be just like him. That is literally the opposite of a personal brand. A personal brand is actually who you are and leveraging off the authenticity of that. Here's the thing. Bernard, you've known me for a while. I always kind of look like this, right?
Pretty much.
Might have seen me in like a nice dress occasionally at an awards night, but that will be about it. I authentically am always going to be who I am. That means the music that I listen to, the language that I'm going to use on the call. There is a good possibility at some point today, I'm definitely going to swear on a phone call with somebody. That's again, a bit of a historical.
Well, the show.
Like it's the expectation. Like that's how I know you. You're direct. Some people probably say you're blunt, but I think you're straight up. Like you just say, you call it how it is. You call it spade a spade. You know? And that's what I like when I come and see you. I'm like, I expect Jemima straight up. You know,
that's your makeup.
Yeah, it's coming from kindness. It's never like when people are being referred to as blunt, are being referred to as a ball buster. At least 6 men that I know have referred to me as terrifying, and I'm fine with all of that. But what is good about the things that I do is that it's always led with kindness. That's my brand. That's who I am. I'm always going to be approachable. I'm going to always be really who I authentically am. That includes, and where people go, this sounds really wish-washy, and it does until I tell you that I'll always largely wear the same kind of clothes. I'm never going to be turning up. I'm always going to have denim on me. I have to. That's who I am. And I'm not going to steer away from that. And that is kind of my superpower. because I'm not trying to be Mel Robbins. I'm not trying to be the new Tony Robbins. I'm not trying to be Brene Brown. Brene Brown does a really famous story about doing her first ever speaking gig that she's like paid, she's in a suit, she's like, she got changed. She'd bought this suit. She's like, I just can't be me on stage. Who I am and who I turn up with, I deserve to get paid exactly for who I am.
So it's all about promoting your authentic self. It's about who you are in the sense of how you present yourself. It's what you also know. It's what you're passionate about and what you deliver and how you add value to meetings or businesses or brands or whoever's engaged with you is what you're bringing to the table. In other words, is you're going to get known by that reputation.
It's so important that you are authentically who you are. The facade that we can put up occasionally, and this is not me saying that if you've had a bad day that you don't at least give 110% or put a little bit of a facade on occasionally of just like, I've had a really bad day. You know what time I started phone calls this morning, boys? 6 o'clock this morning to LA. And I'm fine with that. I'm a little bit tired. Is it always going to be sunshine and roses? No. Am I always having a good day? No, but my personal brand is I'm approachable. I'm going to be helpful. And that is absolutely what your clients and things are going to love from you. It can be seen as so wishy-washy because it's just like, oh, it's just like be who you are. We are done this year. It was so interesting. I was reading a study that was done about the big kind of Woolworths shareholders, and like Kmart was the first year they lost money.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Over Christmas.
Oh. You know why? Do you know why they lost money? Because they couldn't get stock. I kept going to Kmart, place is empty. I'm like, everything I want is not there. Of course, you're going to lose money. I can't buy anything.
But we found other places to go. So we went to smaller businesses. We got to know other business owners. We got to directly go to things like that. We are kind of done with this big idea of corporate culture. We're really moving to the smaller cafes. COVID made us direct into it's the businesses that you go to in the cool bars. You're like, I love this music. I love the bartenders. They're really cool because you're digging their vibe. It's not polished.
Like a case study or a success story that you've had where you're like, I've turned this personality into something that is now transpired into business or opportunity or something like that. Could you give us an example of how a brand is like a personal brand is actually turned into value?
Yeah, I'm working with a guy at the moment. His name's Chris. I'll use his name. And he has always been like, hi, Chris Mewison, love me from Wealthy On. Chris was like presented to me and he's like, I want to build my business brand. And I was like, shouldn't we build yours? And so we're doing things with him to be like the nice guy of finance. We're building him to be like the no bullshit. There's the swear. Here's the guy that is going to explain you very complex terms very easily to entrepreneurs. I was like, so we've taken him from like wanting to put the business first of we only work with tradies to him being the direct line of contact. He's getting TV interviews. He's getting podcast interviews. He's getting seen authentically as him and being like, we're sorry that we made the finance world confusing. It's not meant to be. Let me explain it to you. This nice guy finance. He's crushing it.
But I think it's also about that personal space, like chemistry in the sense of how people recognize you or relate to you. You know, if you walk into a coffee shop and you've got a barista that got to know you and how you like your coffee, you want to be serviced the way that you are projected rather than the way you are presumed.
Agreed, 100%.
Cool. And on that note, let's just wrap up the show.
I'm waiting for the timer to go off. I'm like, I don't want the timer to go off while I'm talking. So I was like, yeah, all right.
We got a whole minute. Look.
We got a minute. Let's go. So basically, all right, how do you go about defining this brand? Like, you know, if you it's all about projecting your personality. How do you package that?
Yeah, so this is really what it comes down to. And there are entire courses in how to do this, but it comes down to the language. You kind of audit yourself. Like, what do I want to be known for is the first question. And that comes back to what problem do you solve and who do you solve that problem for? If you're trying to solve problems in BP and oil mining and, these big rooms, you're going to have to be projecting and delivering yourself as someone who wears suits and goes to corporate things. If you want to be like the streetwise entrepreneur who knows stuff, you're going to want a pair of jeans. There is, you've never seen Tony Robbins walk out in a suit and tie to run an event. You've never seen Gary Vee rock up in a tuxedo and be like, what's up, bros? That's not who he is. That's not who he's speaking to.
Then
And
do you
there are,
structure it like you know how like for a business you do a style guide? Do you structure it in the same way?
you absolutely can. There are 8 principles, and happy to give them to anyone that wants them. Anytime.
Where's the sound?
Where's this is a live show.
You know why? It was connected to my headphones. I was negotiating with Grant and his computer.
No alarm. We'll be okay. It's okay.
Yeah, don't worry. There'll be an alarm. It's very tacky. We made it extremely tacky.
Oh, it's a terrible alarm. It's terrible.
Then maybe we just keep them connected, guys. What do we think?
Oh man. Cool. Grant, did you want to wrap up?
Look, I think that I take a lot of points out of this last 7 minutes of discussion, in the sense that I think when I talk about personal branding, I'm definitely that guy, in the sense that I'm going to rock up in my jeans and I'm definitely not going to wear a tie. So that's very much my characteristics as to who I am. Doesn't matter what the function or what the affair is. I think at the end of the day, it is about being authentic, in the sense that in digital space, you know, people want to see the real person. They don't really want to see make-believe or falsehood. They want to buy the genuine characteristics of a person. And I think that the space that you find yourself in the sense of where you are promoting people, I think is so disruptive and so pure and so clean to that of what has conventionally been regarded as PR. I think now you've got some clear space where individuals can come to the front and show their talents, because at the end of the day, it's about that authenticity.
Yeah, this is like build of the know, like, and trust, right? They've got to get to know you, they've got to get to like you, and then they can trust you and give you money. And the hardest dollar we'll ever get is the first, right? So if people know you and they're seeing you and you're doing cool stuff, of course, like it's an easy buy. It's an easy sell.
Yeah, I think, and also they start to feel like they actually know you. You know.
Yeah, that's happened a few times. Yeah,
I've had people walk up to me and they're like, "Oh, I saw your LinkedIn content. I really like this and that." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay, hey man, yeah, nice to meet you." What was I going to ask? Actually, I was going to say something and now lost me. Do you know what that means?
Question number 2.
Next question. That's it. Exactly. Oh, that's what I was going to say. If anyone wants to get those 8 points and connect with Jemima, let us know. Reach out to us across any of the multitude of platforms that we're connected on. We'll link you up with Jemima, and you can get a little bit more meat behind your personal brand building. That is what she's all about. Cool. Are you ready for the next question?
Absolutely.
Let's go.
You didn't even have a chance, Jemima. Grant's already like.
Yeah, you were like, I haven't sent you any questions. I said it'll be fine. I've got this.
This is all about busking. It's busking.
Yeah.
Busking for questions. So look, we've talked a bit about personal brands, and the one thing that I typically hear when we do talk about this subject and people have reached out to me or wanted to discuss it, they always come down to the one point. They're like, how do I manage my personal brand and my corporate brand? Are they one and the same? Do I keep them separate? What are the risks of bringing them together?
Very good question. Very good
question. Before I have to sneeze, I'll hit this timer. Bam.
I kind of want to see both.
No, that's not an answer. You got to unbundle.
Okay, so the question is personal brand versus corporate brand. Okay, this is if I'm going to teach anything today, this is the takeaway I want to give people.
Listen,
stop trying to just promote your business. You have to promote yourself as well. You guys are so closely interlinked, it can get confusing, but let me just try to explain this as clear as possible. Some of my clients are still struggling with this. I'm not expecting in 7 minutes everyone's going to be like, get it, but let me try. As an entrepreneur and a business owner, on average, like I'm a big psychology person, I'm a big numbers person, because otherwise, I don't know if what I'm doing is working and I don't know how people buy stuff. So I have to know both pretty well. As an entrepreneur, you will have on average 11 businesses before you make your first recurring $1 million a year.
Wow.
We'll start side hustles, we'll try other things, we'll start a podcast, we'll go over there and do another little thing, we'll start that network marketing thing, we'll do the wrong business until we find something that really gels. And each one of these times we're learning stuff, right? We're learning about communication, we're learning about the Visibility Lab's my 5th business.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. Don't get me wrong. And in many ways it's like different versions of a very similar kind of thing. Like the book's called Position Me, right? It's all about positioning yourself as an expert. The whole thing has been about that. But what's so important to realize, if I was to just grab one of those businesses and just promote that, at no point is my face anywhere near that. Where this becomes problematic is if I sell a business or I get rid of it or I close it. Because suddenly all the work that I've done building a brand is now passed over, sold, or closed down. And all the work that I've done and everything that I've done and all the skills that I've built and the relationships that I have actually mean very little now.
I'm with you.
Our journeys are important. There is a reason that, you know, if I was to say to you, Grant, who runs Facebook, Meta? Can you answer?
Yeah. What's his name?
Starts with Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
Bernard, who runs Tesla?
I knew that. Elon Musk.
Elon Musk, yeah.
And quick question for both of you, for anyone, and also anyone playing along at home, who runs Woolworths and BP? Why do you not know their names, and why do you know Zuckerberg and Elon Musk? Because they built their brands too.
Correct.
That's the equivalent. You have to think about this as like Tesla can now do its own thing. Starlink can do its own thing, but that direct contact's Elon Musk. It was Ukraine reached out to Elon Musk, not Tesla. We're like, yo, we need some internets. And he's like, here you go.
Yeah.
And if they and I think the other thing
you have to have both.
Is that credibility means they could literally start any next business and leverage into that next business, and it will be successful because of the credibility they've created and the established. Because people are not wedded, but people are along the journey. They've known them along the journey, so they've seen them build the brand. They've seen them create such a large stake in it, and then they would expect the same kind of engineering prowess to go into the next business or next venture. You know?
Yeah.
But I have a question. So I have a question. So if Elon Musk, for example, sells Tesla completely, 100%, lock, stock, and barrel, and the people who buy Tesla and the people who buy from Tesla now realize that Elon is no longer part of the show, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because he's built his brand coincide with Tesla, but now he's sold out. What happens to Tesla thereafter?
It's a really interesting question, and what we're seeing with in a very hyper focused thing here is we're seeing Elon Musk try some other stuff now. We've got the space program, we've got Starlink happening, we've got the internet happening, we've got a whole bunch of different things he's putting his, trying it out to. It's, I think a better, probably more established version of this would be Richard Branson. If you look at Virgin, like if he sold that now, we'd all be like, okay, because he built the brand, like we know, like, and trust Virgin independently from him. So I don't think Tesla's had the ability to kind of prove itself at the moment. I think we're only really seeing the kind of rise and I think, petrol prices at the moment and the world where we are at the moment, there is a real reason that we're all going to be looking at these cars now in the future and being like, hybrids the future, electric cars are the future. We're seeing these stations pop up. There's going to be, he's really beat us to that front. I think right now, I think he would have trouble selling, like liquidating and it just being an independent thing. But having said that, more established stuff, if Richard Branson was to be like, I'm selling Necker Island, it would be different because he's closely linked to that versus I'm selling Virgin, everyone would be like, I don't give a shit.
So I got so there was, Gary Vee actually said this really cool thing once. He was like, every brand that has a reputation can leverage into any market and sell in that market because of the reputation. So he gave an example, like, why doesn't BMW produce headphones? Why doesn't BMW have some awesome BMW headphones, BMW symbol on the outside, with their reputation and the quality of their products? Why couldn't they build headphones? And people, you don't think anyone would buy BMW headphones? Like if it came with the same quality and reputation as BMW, why wouldn't you buy it? And I know that isn't an individual brand, but the brand itself has such value, has a characteristic that people buy into. But then I would also say, but that is not the same with Apple. Because what's interesting about it, right? BMW is not tied to an individual. So it could produce something and they would go, oh, well, I'd expect it to be the same BMW quality. But with Apple, what literally happened with them, look at that. What literally happened with them is Steve Jobs was there. Steve Jobs got kicked out. It went horribly. They brought back Steve Jobs. It went amazingly. And now I would probably say, and most people would probably say, it's not really doing much for anyone these days. But
Apple is testing cars at this point in time.
I thought we're so like, but is it going to go well when we're only like into the Apple, we're only in the Tesla kind of era. This is way more like talking about brands rather than personal, personal separate. But see, this is why it's important, because if we knew, I don't even know who's running Apple at the moment. Here's the problem. Steve Jobs so tied into it, it's now a detriment.
Did you like that alarm?
No, that was really high pitched.
It's a terrible alarm.
Instantly not having fun, guys. Instantly not having fun.
And that's what I was trying to point out, right? That the brand almost, the quality of the brand was now tied to the individual, not to the brand itself.
Yeah, and problematic.
Because, if you looked across the three of us, Grant went, well, they're creating electric cars now. And then me and you went, and so what? Who really cares?
But if Steve Jobs said, right, look at this new car, we would all look at the new car.
100%. If Steve Jobs came up in his turtleneck and went, hey, check this out, I'll be like, damn, Steve.
Guys, if Steve Jobs is coming back to recommend anything, we have a bigger problem.
The resurrection is real.
Whoever he was Jesus.
It's all true now. Jesus
took a real dark turn on my behalf. I apologize to everyone.
No apology required.
Awesome. I love there's such a contrast, and I think there's as much risk as there is reward tying your brand to an individual, and I think that's the truth, right? There are times where an individual gets caught up in some kind of mess that they either created themselves or somebody else has created around them, and now their brand gets dragged down through the mess. But likewise, on the other side of that, sometimes that mess helps them get the kind of publicity that they need, or they just do good things that carry the brand into the stratosphere. It's so hard to know. Another good example of that is Ellen with her show. After her reputation came out around how she treated the people behind the scenes, that was it. It was game over. Her brand was her, and her created the show, and show was tied completely to who she was outside of the show.
And the show lost all its value at the end of that show. It just lost its appeal, it lost its reputation, it lost its following. It's still around, but it is not as high-pitched as it was in its heyday.
Yeah, and this is the thing about authenticity, right? Going back to kind of the value of that personal brand, that, I truly believe, just based on what I've heard and known, having spent some time in LA, is that at the very beginning, everything that you thought about Alan was true. And then over time, things changed and people drank the Kool-Aid, and in systems beat out the personal brand and beat out, it was, it became less focused about helping good. And that was meant to be a value of the show. And it became less of a driving factor and more of a financial. And then there was too many people involved, and we've gotten away from our why. So now we've got 20 seasons of just chaos of stuff happening and these little things festering, it getting worse and worse. And, there's these issues that we don't address. And then, so that's why it was such a rude shock to everyone, because 20 years ago, that was truly the value. We weren't tricked. That was exactly what it was. And over time, things changed and we moved away from that. And Ellen had lost sight of her personal brand and who she was versus the image she wanted to portray. And that's where things get ugly, when we start to really be who we aren't. Is that another timer? Okay.
No, who's that? Is that you, Grant?
No, that was me. I'm just getting a text from someone saying they agree.
A great show. Love it. Let's go back all the time.
Cool, guys. And on that same guys, we talked about something just before the show, Jemima and myself, because obviously Grant was having technical problems, and Jemima just kind of dropped this little nutshell in, and I was like, cool, let's put it in the show, about where do people go wrong with PR? Is there a wrong place to put you? Is there a wrong place to position yourself? Where do people go wrong? And I think we always talk about the benefits and the positives that come out of PR, but it is quite an investment, whether it's time or money. Where does it all go wrong? Ready to go? Hit the timer?
I disagree that it's a lot of time and a lot of money. I think a lot of places have made it look like a lot of time and a lot of money, but it's not that if you do it right. It's why we're a disruptor. It's why we're winning awards in this, because I'm like, it's 20 minutes a day, yo. I could teach my nephew who's 11 to do this quite easily. where people get PR wrong. One, they think it's a lot harder than it needs to be. Two, they fail to recognize. This is how important this is the other important thing, guys. Write this down. We fail to recognize where we need to be seen.
Right.
And what historically I have seen places do is anywhere will do. We get you that interview, you do that TV show, great, you're being featured. Well, here's the thing. I work predominantly with men, and like 80% men, 80% women, 20% men. And I love that split. That's great for me. Again, that was, I use it as a joke. If 6 men have called me terrifying, it's a joke. It's actually 8. So like, I need strong men to be around me. If I'm going to be talking to Men's Health magazine, I'm only going to be talking to like 20% of those dudes minimum, like, right? Like, I'm a tiny fraction of their whole audience is male. I only deal with 20% of men. So like, it's almost a waste of time for me to be there because 80% of my people are women. Isn't it better that I go to Mamma Mia where I have almost 100% female readership and put myself there? So what historically I've seen people do is like just apply for everything versus going, where is my ideal client spending time? And that includes this thing. Attention economy is a big thing. What blogs are they reading? What podcasts are they on? They're not analyzing this. You need to be where your ideal client is. Otherwise, you're literally just shouting your message at people. There's no point if I said to you boys, hey, great guys, I've got you a gig on Horse and Hound magazine. And you're looking at me going, why are we doing this? Versus, hey guys, you guys want to be featured in Forbes? There's one of those wildly more appealing than the other.
Yeah.
The final thing where we get it wrong, it's kind of a double whammy here. We don't ask. We don't reach out to podcasts. We don't reach out to media that we want to be in. We're like, I don't know how to do it. Make it valuable to them. This is the second point. What are you adding? I hosted an extremely successful podcast for a long time, and we would constantly get emails of like telling me why I'm the best. Oh, I'm the best. I run this business. I do successful things. You should talk to me. Yeah. If I'm going to give you my platform, what are you going to give to my people? What's the benefit to me? So now I teach people to go. My name is 𝘽𝙞𝙩𝙚. I work for the Visibility Lab, and I will teach your listeners these 5 takeaways that will help them get free PR, get seen, and to win awards in 2022. Versus, I'm the best. You guys should hire me. Like, talk to me for an hour. That's no good. What's the benefit? So, and those are my thoughts of where people get PR wrong.
So, quick question, right? What happens when your personal brand has been damaged due to something that has happened, be it that it was drunk driving or, let's say, for example, Oscar Pistorius, who went and he murdered his girlfriend on Valentine's Day. How does he come back from that?
I think we can collectively agree he can't, and I'm cool with that.
Okay.
Do you want to give me a better example, like more tangible? Let's say let's use the drink driving. It's not a bad one. Yeah. So, when there are basically what we refer to as career enders of things like murder, homicide, accidentally killing someone, and use that loosely, and I have my personal thoughts on sports and celebrities, how we like pull them up a little bit higher than they need to be. I just let's all chill out. Let's use drink driving. If there's a celebrity in Australia who's caught drink driving, a number one thing that you will see people do now is apologize and be like, I absolutely made a mistake. I have messed up. I'm hyper aware of that. You need to own it. Like, that's the first thing you need to do. 2, you need to address what's happened. It's why you'll always see people going to rehab. You'll always see people doing drug and alcohol stuff. You'll see, from my perspective, try to get out of the media. But if it's out there, you need to commit to it and be like, this is what happened. And this is where Learn Your Lesson Day comes into play. Don't do it again. We are super forgiving as people if you make mistakes. That has never been the problem. We are not super forgiving if you make the mistake again and again and again, and you're a dick about it.
Yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree with you there. I think anyone is human and anyone can make a mistake, but at the same time, own it and learn from it and teach it. Then I think you can redeem yourself from it.
Yeah, you'll see every PR firm will be like, this happened. I'm not here to make excuses. However, this is what happened. I didn't realize I was taking medication. We had the one who was like, my mum gave me a Panadol and I didn't realize for the Olympics that happened. A few years ago. There are things that we can apologize for, but it's also like, if you're a human and you're a human, you make mistakes, you're not perfect. It's owning that stuff.
100%. Wow. No, well, that's good to know that, you can come back from a failure.
Absolutely.
But you've got to just own it and wear it and teach from it. But at the same time, there are some swords that you just can't cross, because then you'll never come back. And I think some people must just keep their feet on the ground and reach for the stars and stay that way.
Yeah, there are tactics that if it is a really serious thing, there are definitely tactics that you can do to minimize their fallout. If you want to talk about the person who's nailed this is Kris Jenner from the Kardashians, anytime there is a scandal, they will make another story. So there are definite ways around that. And you'll see things like suddenly the celebrity who's doing the rehab is engaged and they're getting married, they had a new kid or whatever it is. There's always like
the turnaround story.
Yeah. So, but for stuff like us, for most entrepreneurs, it's just posting the wrong post. It's making an inappropriate joke on Twitter. That's an apology.
So when it comes to,
yeah, go ahead, Grant.
So when it comes to businesses that want to create a business name in their personal name to that of a neutral name, good idea, bad idea, because at the end of the day, you want to sell the entity. What's your thoughts?
I like people who are a bit controversial, but make sure it's a hill you're willing to die on. I got a lot of flack recently for an article I did for Channel 9. I'm looking at the time and I don't care. Bernardo, just don't. I did an article that was real controversial, where I had said publicly that I believed women, and let me start by saying, this is going to be rough for some people who are watching this. I believed that women should have a secret bank account that they had money in that their partner didn't have access to. And I said that someone who went through a divorce, who didn't have access to money because we had joint bank accounts. And when I got divorced, I needed like 10 grand to get myself out of that nightmare. And I had said publicly in Channel 9, this is a tip I'd give women. I didn't realize how big the story was going to get. It ended up being picked up the BBC. It ended up being kind of a bit viral. This is probably a good example of good, bad press, right? Like, so it's, most people were cheering me. Some other people wanted to call me some real interesting names.
I always thought, why don't do it the other way? Like, you each have your individual accounts, but you agree to deposit a certain amount in a joint account. That's how I always thought it would be the best way.
Yeah. How it was worded was like I just basically said women should have access to their own money, which I'm totally for. But this 100%. Was a hill I was willing to take a stand on. I was like, yeah, I think women should save 10% of everything their partner shouldn't have access to. It was unfortunately titled in the article an F-off fund with the actual word written. And so that's where the real controversy started. That's the hill I am willing to die on. I was like, yep, women should have 10% hidden as an emergency fund. And I learnt this the hard way. That's my experience. I'm not talking about every single woman. And some women wanted to beat me up. Some women wanted to applaud. It went real both ways.
Wow.
Here's the thing with that, though. That's a hill I'm willing to die on. I'm willing to have that controversial conversation. I'm willing to stand and be like, yeah, I stand by that, and have someone tell me I'm wrong. What I'm not willing to do, and where I think we have to be really clear of that, if you're going to make a stance like that, and this is a pretty medium thing, like this isn't even probably one of the worst things that I could have said about that situation. If you're willing to make a stand that's borderline controversial, own it, but make sure you believe it. It's where you see people try to be like, oh, I don't know if I mean it or not. I'm backtracking a little bit. It's be clear that you want to stand, you want to die on that hill. Like we talk about these being die on the hill things. And also like, what do I owe other people? It's my story. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. Like be very clear about your boundaries on it too. If you want to sell a business, I sold a business as of yesterday. The final transfer happened for settlement. But, don't tie it to your name. It's the one thing I can't recommend enough. So don't be like, Jemima Ashley's a photography business, super dangerous. What if I want to sell it? What if I burn it to the ground? What if I make a dumb, I was here to say something very controversial that is not true, that I absolutely wouldn't believe. Something super controversial. I've now burnt my entire business.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I understand. 100%.
Now, do you know something, Grant, that hasn't happened in this show?
That word edutainment has been fulfilling this whole show. Do you know that we have had edutainment from the minute the show started till the end, because we've had a true personality talk their heart out. But at the end of the day, you and I have both sat and listened, because the aspect of the subject matter is not only new, it's unique. And I think that has been a very edutainment show.
I love that word. Thank you for having me, boys. Really happy to be here. And I would love to entertain you again.
Soon.
Honestly, that passed so quickly. I kept looking at the timer, especially in like the second and the third question. I was like, oh my God, it's about to be finished. So I feel like there's so much more we want to talk about. Come on.
I feel like, great, you were just going to say, that's the first time anyone's like, I don't care about the buzzer. And I didn't. I was like, oh no, I'm not done making my point.
We've had that, especially Grant and I. We implemented the buzzer in the beginning to stop us from talking.
Yeah, it's more for our benefit than anyone else.
Yeah. We're like, nobody wants to listen this long.
Otherwise, the show will never end or won't even start.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the point, right? My personality is that I love having a chat with people. I love telling you, I love answering questions like this. It wasn't a problem that I love this kind of interview.
Yeah, beautiful.
But if I got on and I was like, I'm really tired, I would expect Bernard to be like, what's wrong with you? Are you all right? Because I built my entire profile and reputation on being this person.
Yeah.
And if you see me on anything else, this is it. Sorry, guys.
Like, if you were like that, you would have made me really worried. I'll be like, okay, let's just cancel the show.
Yeah.
Getting seeking messages. You okay? You okay?
Guys, on that note, it's Thursday. We all want to get out and do some late night shopping, right? I don't know. Is that what people do today? Is it raining? I don't know. 𝘬𝙗, thank you so much for joining us. That was phenomenal. The energy was spectacular and the subject matter was spot on. I love your perspective. I love that you're doing something different. And obviously, so does everyone else, hence all the hype and the awards. So keep on doing what you're doing, and congratulations on all the success so far with this brand. And I'm looking forward to kicking off some projects this year with you as well. So it's going to be an exciting year, I think, for all of us. Thank you for joining us, Grant. Wrap it up, baby.
Well, Jemima, I just want to say that thank you for being 100% authentic and showing us how to do it. I think that's exactly what it's all about, in the sense of putting your best foot forward, being real, being authentic, and just talk from the heart. And at the end of the day, it's not about bullshit. It's about belief in the sense of value. And I think that is where we are all just so overdone, in the sense of people's perceptions, which falsehood. I think we want to just connect with genuine connectivity of people and their heart, and I think that is what you sell and you promote, and I've bought in 100%, so I'm a fan. So thank you very much for sharing your information today.
Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. It's great feedback.
Everybody who's been listening, please comment, share, and if you want any information or to be connected with Jemima directly, please let us know. As always, we're looking for guests or controversial subjects, because we love controversial subjects. Everyone loves
questions. Send questions.
Send in what you got. We'll put it on the show. We'll give you a shout out as well. Why not? And please join us for the next show. It is in a couple of weeks from this week, first and third week of every month, at 4 o'clock on Thursday. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you so much, Jemima. Thanks, Grant, as always. And we'll catch you on the next show.